Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Curkin, the articles editor of Elle Decor, and I'm coming to you live in the weeks between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur from an unbuilt synagogue by Louis Kahn. Hope you like it. Welcome, everybody, to our panel in which we discuss mastering the next stage of design, what does that mean? We will find out. Thank you to the New York Design Center for putting on a truly memorable edition of What's New, What's Next. I want to take this opportunity to also thank the folks at Theodore Alexander for sponsoring this panel. We at Elle Decor are truly, truly grateful. Today on our panel, our esteemed guests include Jamie Drake, Keita Turner, and Alexa Hampton. They don't need much in the way of introduction, but you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway. Jamie Drake is the founder of the interior design firm Drake Anderson. His clients have included Madonna and Michael Bloomberg. Jamie, I've heard from my friends who work at Bloomberg headquarters that Mike is kind of obsessed with pet fish. Did you have to spend time researching chic fish tanks?
Well, that's interesting, and that is quite true. He has quite an affection for fish tanks, and they have been used widely in many of his offices and his philanthropic headquarters.
Got to see the photos. This year, Jamie introduced a beautiful new collection of furniture inspired by the natural world for Theodore Alexander. Hi, guys. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you.
Keita Turner is an award-winning interior designer based in New York who was recently appointed to House Beautiful Magazine's Advisory Council, as well as High Point Market's Style Spotter team, and she is a founding member of the Black Artists and Designers Guild. Welcome, Keita.
Thank you.
Great to have you. And last but certainly not least, Alexa Hampton, who's been at the helm of Mark Hampton, her father's legendary firm, since 1998. She sits on the boards of New York School of Interior Design and the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art. Last year introduced a blockbuster furniture collection for Theodore Alexander, and she's just a really cool chick. Welcome, Alexa.
Thank you.
So we've got a lot of beautiful imagery, like wowza, and yes, they will all tie to the theme, but you know, just fair warning, we went overboard because we need a lot of beauty in our lives right now. So these guys, they've produced the goods. This is going to be some bread and butter eye candy. So I'm going to open up the conversation to all three. I'm going to obviously point to people so it doesn't get out of control. But let's start off with the important question that I think sets the tone. How has business changed for you during the pandemic? Let's start with Jamie.
Thank you, Charles. So I think business has changed for everybody, whatever industry you're in. As a designer, we had to first and foremost learn to work remotely as a team. And so Zoom, hello Zoom, became our great platform. And we managed to figure it out pretty quickly how to design in teams, on Zoom calls, etc. The overall business climate, of course, is also something I think that's on everybody's minds and where we're going. We actually started the year off with a rather thin pipeline because we had our major projects, 3, 4, 5-year projects that we had in-house all finished in 2019. So we started the year open to new projects, and things were kind of quiet when the whole pandemic hit and when we had the shutdown. But during the shutdown, we ended up getting an influx of new projects, and not so much the ones one would think about that they're people who realize, or pre-existing clients, it looks tired, we need to figure out a home office, this and that. No, these were brand new projects, and I think it was about people who realized that although they needed to do things differently and stay at home at the moment, they weren't going to stop their dreams, and they went forward with purchasing homes that they were either in contract with or came to us shortly after the pandemic and went to contract on new homes. And so we're now very busy.
So you're the man of these people's dreams. That's really cool.
Well, that's a wonderful idea. Now I can sleep well.
What about you, Alexa? Similar?
I had a bunch of installations at the end of 2019 as well, and some that for whatever reason, as is often the case, were delayed. So I was happy for the delay at that point because, you know, you knew you had those in hand. And I have been going to job sites and FaceTiming with my colleagues. And of course, we FaceTime with clients. And then the product, like there's nothing hard about doing product during the shutdown. And that's actually like a relief to be able to have things that you can just work on and that, you know, there's no having to adjust. But you know, I'm still curious about what's going to happen in this next 6-month period. I have this pet theory that I'm working and I'm grateful for any work I have and, you know, go, always out with my sandwich board and my bell. But I have a theory that with all of the buying of houses that has occurred, and often at unfavorable, you know, prices for the people fleeing wherever they're fleeing from to, that they're waiting.
Exodus of people from cities in their apartments.
Yes, from whatever city to whatever country space nearby. I think you know, they spend so much money making these transitions really fast, and they're on tenterhooks about, you know, how their children are going to go to school, are their children going to be living with them, all of those very serious thoughts that I think, and with the election coming up, I think they're just taking a breath before figuring out what to do with those houses. And I'm very curious about what those houses will look like, and if there will be an influx of urban design that goes into those houses because they're going to be coming with them from their old apartments, or, you know, I feel like it's going to be a very fecund era. In 6 months, some really exciting and different styles, I think, are going to appear.
I would agree. I think fecund is a great way to describe it, but it also sounds like it might be something that is without identity at first, because people are, as you said, taking their urban interiors with them. Very interesting, which I'm sure we can explore a little later.
Without identity, but an organic sensibility. You know, it will happen by virtue of necessity.
Or you'll make it happen, Alexa.
Yeah, exactly. We'll make it happen.
Keita will make it happen.
Keita.
Yes. Hi. Well, for me, I mean, it's definitely been a transition. This is not the first time that I have encountered change. You know, I've lived through a few recessions now, or I don't even want to say recessions. Perhaps hopefully we're not going into let's not bring that, you know. But
I thought you were going to say you've lived through a few pandemics now.
No.
You look so young.
No, when I graduated, and then, you know, the 2008 recession. But for us, we had some influx of projects. So, you know, everything was going great, you know, January, February. We had some new clients coming on board. One was a dentist and a lawyer out in New Jersey. And then another was, you know, a kind of high profile elected official in New Jersey. Well, once March rolled around, those projects kind of, you know, basically came to a halt or a slowdown. One, because the family who was a dentist, she had to shut her practice down.
Yeah.
You know, so she's like, well, you know what, we need to halt for a little bit, see where we're going, see what's happening. They have small children, and, you know, take a breather. And then the other client, because of the profile of one of the couple, you know, we were going to be doing a renovation and an add-on. So I think that it just, you know, for optics sake, you know, it probably wouldn't have looked good for them to have a team of people and proceeding as you know, going forward. But then, to, you know, my surprise, I had well, actually we had a client that just barely made it. They sold their home out in Brooklyn, and moved to the North Carolina area. So we started working with them at the latter part of 2019 into 2020. They just made the move right before the shutdown. So they were in place, but a lot of the other things that we were going to proceed with, you know, the wife was like, no one's in the house. They didn't want anyone in the house. So that's shut down.
Including
then
you.
I had, say that again?
Including you.
Well, including me, yes.
Yeah.
But then I had, a client, it's a client that I've worked with before, in their house in Westchester. They're like, we are moving to Florida. And that, we can talk more about that later, but they were happy to get out. They closed in May, and we're working on that project as we speak, so.
I know you can't answer the question, but like, does your client from New Jersey's name rhyme with story cooker?
No.
Okay. just going through my my knowledge of couples who live in New Jersey. Okay.
Yes. No.
So across the board, new business did not cease. Is that right? You'd all agree with that?
Yeah, it did
Correct.
not cease, but that's not to say that I think our industry is one of a constant fear.
Yeah.
Because it does go in cycles where you're very, very busy, and then the minute things start installing, you start anticipating, like we're not anticipating. You start hoping, like, where's the next call? Who's going to call? When's the next big project? So I think we all have lived through versions of this stress before.
I think that's a very interesting segue, because it's something I was going to ask about you guys more personally, but like, what are your fears? What have they been before the pandemic? You're talking about that's a fear. Can you speak more specifically about how that fear kind of permeates your everyday, and what times?
Keita, you said that you've lived through various turn downs. Alexa, I know you have. I have as well. So in fact,
and death, like,
And death,
it's going to keep going.
yes.
Right.
I mean,
And
for me,
everyone that we know in our business has gone through these anxious moments.
yeah, I feel like right now I think we're in shock still. I think we are in a certain mode where we don't know what is to come down the pipeline. I know for me in 2008, that actually ended up being one of my better years. And also because I had launched my website. It was the marketing element helped out. So I didn't really feel the slowdown until a couple of years later.
Yeah.
So we don't know what will, how this will transition, or how this will, like Alexa, you were saying, we don't know what this will look like in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Or even into 2021.
Right. I think the bigger
And
challenge,
Sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
the coronavirus, because we don't know whether there'll be a second wave. It's certainly, if you look at the statistics in our country versus other places in the world, we don't look to be doing a very good job, but eventually it will, whether it's 6 months or a year. I think the bigger challenge is the political instability now, and the fear that we have a madman in the White House who will not leave that room. And I think that the election is going to be a huge challenge to the markets and the economy and political unrest.
And we're talking about this a month and a half out. Very interesting.
Jamie, you really just dragged that conversation way down.
Yeah, I'm really glad I didn't lead off.
So get out and vote. I'm not afraid of being spicy.
No, Jamie, I'm happy to have spice. I did originally have in my intro that this was not going to be a lugubrious conversation, but you know what?
I'm just trying to agree to an absolute win for the Democratic Party.
Well, I forgot to tell you that we have a fifth person coming onto this panel. Donald Trump, come on! No, I'm just kidding.
Is the Q&A part lighting up now with people saying, "Tell that Drake to shut up"?
Yes, 100%. No, Jamie, we're going to give you.
Yes.
Someone did say, no, please don't make this political.
Yeah. So back to decorating briefly. I think decorating, whether or not you have the ability to hang, the bandwidth you have is, it all depends on how big your office is. If you are a small office, you just need X number of jobs, and they don't have to be huge. Jamie, you and I have spoken about it, and I'm sure, Keita, you agree. It's like there are two kinds of jobs. There are these that have a very slow rotation, and those are the construction jobs. And you bill in the beginning when you get some of your fee, and you're working on electrical plans and doing stuff with architects, but you're not billing for a lot of that. And then you bill at the end. So that can be a financial arc of a couple of years. And then if you can, you want to have decorating jobs. And those have smaller revolutions. So like you're making curtains and you're billing for curtains, and you're selling a bedding and you're billing for bedding. And so we need to be able to have this and this so that we can pay our bills. And I think that's always been the case. And it's really, how big is your company? The leaner you are, the better your stress level will be.
Do all three of you, this is a question for all three, because you have varying size firms. Is that the goals that you had set for yourselves before the pandemic? You guys are run businesses, you're entrepreneurs, you must have goals that you set for, Q4, Q1 of the next year. I'm wondering,
Should I be doing that?
Alexa, I was going to talk to you about that.
Alexa, do you know what the Q stands for here?
What's that, Jamie? Yeah, so that was a question I was also going to ask, which is like, have your goals for the year completely changed outside of just working creatively? Were any of you thinking about making hires?
I think we'd had to just we always did do quarterly projections a year out. Since so much of our work is so long term, even the decorating projects can be 8-9 months. And so you could actually do that. And I don't think we can do that anymore. We aren't, to my knowledge. I can't remember seeing a report in the last couple of 6 months. So I think it's really about staying flexible and nimble to the utmost degree. And the goal is to stay alive and afloat and supportive of our staff members. We did furlough people and had salary reductions for the ones who weren't furloughed. We're able, after the PPP came through, to offer everybody who was furloughed their job back. And everybody came back except one employee who chose not to, who might have been incentivized by that $600 bonus amount, which is sort of a short-term sight line. And so we feel lucky, as I said, that we did get busy now. So for the moment, we're trying to, as Alexa said, you've got those longer arc projects. We got a few longer arc projects. And so we're trying to really focus on getting those into the construction phase. One has been out to bid, 2 more are soon going out to bid, because that's when the billing cycle of substance can start.
And Keita?
Yeah, I definitely not meeting the projections for this year, but like Jamie said, I'm just trying to remain flexible, and I do. I've always remained pretty much very lean. It's pretty much me, and then I have my subcontractors that I work with. I have teams of people that I've worked with for years to appear larger and to take on certain size projects when they come along. But I didn't do we didn't do the PPP, but we did the EIDL, which did come through, which I normally wouldn't even take out a loan, or anything like that. And I've never taken anything from a small business association before, but I have it in case I, need it. But, another thing that, I had planned to photograph 4 projects this year. so I've done two, but because of the comfort level of certain clients, I don't want to push it or force it, but I do think it's important to have, to make sure that those elements that are important for marketing do get taken care of, because that's what keeps the ball rolling.
Right.
And I think I think we're all very sensitive to our clients' needs always, but I think that, for the clients of all of ours who are still doing things, I know I feel grateful to them for doing things. And I totally appreciate that a few of them have had to say, we need to tap the brakes a little and reconfigure our budgets. And like, of course you do. Like, I could totally get that. And it's our job to be supportive of that. And it always is. I mean, aren't we always working with budgets anyway? Nobody comes and says, spend all my money, or we would.
Yes.
But I think we're all feeling for each other.
Right. And Keita, I have to agree with you on the marketing statement. I happen to be in Dallas now,
Okay.
in my hotel room, because I can't, in New York, Alexa and I are the co-chairs of the Kips Bay Decorator Show House.
Yes.
And our very ambitious events director decided to branch out, and we have done Palm Beach for 3 years. And this year, we are doing our initial Dallas Show House.
I know, congratulations.
And it's spectacular. So anybody in this environment, please visit the Dallas Kips Bay Decorator Show House, which will be open until October. And Alexa, you would be so proud. It is spectacular.
I know it.
Jamie, that's a great example of something that's not private. Can we go see it in person, or is this going to be purely virtual?
We're doing it safely in person. They're time tickets with limited number of time slots per 2-hour window, and so that the houses are not crowded and everybody is safe, and masks are required, and there's sanitizing stations. Temperatures are taken. And so we are proceeding as cautiously as we can. And I would say that the benefit of that is it allows people to really see the rooms without hordes of people in them. Instead of a single opening night party, which is typical, we're having 2 opening days with 4 2-hour slots each day. We will end up having the same 600 people, but they're coming at
different times.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thanks for letting me plug that.
No, that's so good. And it's also something we as an industry can be proud of, that we're doing some good work. You want to feel good about yourself. You want to feel clean.
Right. And Keita, so to the marketing, the designers who all participated clearly get that they still want to market. It's a strong market here. Also, it's very big houses, very designed.
Very big, yes.
Yeah.
My brother lives in Dallas.
Yeah,
my brother and his wife live there. Yeah.
The people know how to be fabulous here.
Yes, they do. I also a big fan of Fort Worth, directly to the, not sure which direction actually, but it's nearby. And since this is my background, I should plug the Kimball Museum of Art.
Yes.
Yes.
Louis Kahn right there. You should definitely get in the car and check that out if you get bored. So we have a I usually don't get to the questions from the audience until the end, but I think it's kind of germane to what we're talking about right now. Rochelle Lewis says, do you think the pandemic offers a new facet of approach to your design firm where you would promote an offering of sustainable, performance-enhanced, antimicrobial, smart technology? Say that 3 times fast. To clients. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying a lot of that stuff's not very pretty. And we love beautiful things, but yeah, I think it's an important question to bring up. Like, is that something you guys are thinking about?
Actually, Charles, I will disagree that they're not very pretty. There's huge amounts of high performance textiles, especially both fabrics, floor coverings that have come on the market in the last decade. Remember when we used to call it outdoor fabric, and then it became indoor outdoor.
It's become indoor outdoor.
And now high performance.
Inside out.
High performance. And so those solutions, I think, will only increase. And I think that we have had requests for, in the HVAC systems, now installing antimicrobial technology, which isn't hugely expensive to install when you're doing a system at the time that you're doing it. So yes, I think that is going to be probably increasing.
Oh,
Yes.
but those HVAC systems are largely invisible?
Yes.
Right. Well, yeah, I wasn't even thinking of the fabrics. The fabrics are, all the fabrics I've had in my house are from, like, you know, perennials and Krypton. I think perform, well, I have a kid, I have a baby, so I absolutely need them, but they are beautiful and feel great. I was thinking more of the sort of doink, 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 doink technology, you know, the smart home devices and things like that, which, you know.
You mean Alexis?
Not Alexis. Yes, Alexis. You know, I'll give another plug. Sheila Bridges, a wonderful interior designer, did a limited series Sonos for, limited edition speaker system for Sonos with her Harlem 12 motifs on it, which I think is the most beautiful smart home device that's out there. But I mean, there's only 100 of them and I have one of them. So if you can find one of the other 99.
Good on you.
That's an important thing to talk about.
Well, I do think that too, just to piggyback on what Jamie was saying, I haven't delved into like the whole touchless technology. I mean, I know they're talking about trying to implement more of that. So like if you're at the grocery store, instead of having to sign your finger,
Right.
sign your signature with your finger, which is gross now. You know, I guess they're trying to go to a voice automated or touchless.
Or eyeballs.
Or eyeballs, which all of that biometrics kind of scares me. But, you know, I always said I'd be the last one to go down there, but we may be forced in that direction. But for the home, I know for our Florida project, I am pushing a lot of the indoor, outdoor, high performance fabrics. You know, we're using whites and colors, but they're also on the water. They have a pool. If you're staying at home more now, I think you need very high performance, durable rubs because the fabrics are going to wear out quicker because we're using them more. You know, so I think it's important to look into that. And if they have fabrics that are antimicrobial, I think that's perfect. I will definitely be specifying.
Great to hear. I'm going to ask you this. It's a pretty simple question, but I'd love to know. We're talking about this in this context. How much of interior design until this year, relationships with clients specifically, is about in-person service? And has that affected it at all? Because it sounds like you guys are having a deluge of projects despite it, but how much of that historically was important?
So historically, if I'll start, we would have presentations in person with clients when we were at that point of the design process. We would take them to showrooms. We would maybe go to art and antique and design fairs, and all of that has changed dramatically. In addition, even we got some of these new clients signed their contracts with us without meeting us. That would have been unheard of. So I think as much as we've had to pivot, I think clients who want to do things, who are motivated to do things, realize they have to pivot too.
But I think FaceTime and Zoom have had, I had a FaceTime on Sunday and I had my iPad over here where they were sending me images of the site. And then I had my phone on a stand and we were FaceTiming, looking at each other. And then I had a pad behind the stand that if I was drawing something, I'd press the flip and it would flip so they could see what I was drawing. So I actually think I need one more camera so I don't have to do the flipping back and forth. But there was an interesting intimacy about it. That you're focused looking at each other. There was a different intimacy to it. So I didn't feel like I wasn't getting, the cues and getting to see what they're thinking. And I've also, I've learned to become a driver now. I just drive to job sites and I've gone as far as 6 hours
Wow.
I wanted to go on a 10-hour, but the client wouldn't let me. But yeah, it's like, wow, driving can be interesting. You know, it can, you get so much done in the car, and everybody knows they can get you.
Oh, so you
For the
weren't
most part.
driving yourself, you just revealed.
Say what?
You just revealed you weren't driving yourself if you got a lot done in the car.
No, I am driving myself.
Well, you
But,
should
you know, I never
multitasking
used
while you drive.
Well,
I've
you
never
weren't
used
supposed to.
Siri before in my life, but now I figured out Siri.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, hey
Oh,
Siri,
okay.
Yes,
let's talk
exactly.
blah blah blah.
Right, text so-and-so. Yes, it works.
Did
Oh
you
my
hear
God,
Siri?
he just heard me when I said that. I have a very I have a man, Siri, and he just butchers every name he gets. It's
I
hilarious.
changed my Siri to an Irish woman, and it has changed my life completely. I mean,
Is she nice?
she's so nice. I mean, yeah, I yearn to hear her answers, and a lot of the time they're not particularly good, robust answers. But you know what? She tells the temperature very well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to segue now into pretty things. We have reached the 30-minute mark. I feel like it's time to show our captive audience some beautiful photographs and talk about them. And I'm going to ask the question: are photographs enough to get work without meeting the client now? Like, how important are portfolios of professionally shot photographs? And I will ask you to answer once I manage to get this share screen going. Okay, does everyone see the screen?
Yes.
All right, great. So we're going to start with Keita, I think. Wait, hold on. There we go. Keita,
Yes.
tell us about this room. Tell us how an in-person relationship with a client affected the outcome of this room first, and also tell us, about the portfolio question I just asked.
I still get a lot of work from word of mouth. And this project, this happens to be my clients that are in Florida. So this was their Westchester home.
This isn't Story Cooker, okay.
You know, in person was very important. One, because I had to work with some of their existing furnishings, and they wanted color. But I like to layer. I like to mix colors and textures and patterns. So sometimes, you can't always just explain that via, a Zoom call or a WhatsApp chat, or you need to be able to, I like to have my presentations in my white bins, or they're working presentations now. So, back in the day when I first started, I would make them very immaculate and pin down everything, and you couldn't really move anything, and this is what it was. But in order to explain to people who may not be used to building and layering, it has to be interactive. So I still need that element of it. Maybe if it was just one or two colors, it could be easier, but I think it's very important.
And your clients with this, what about this? Did you have to capitulate on anything here, or was this a collaborative experience? These three rooms that we're looking at, I'm including the.
Wait, say that again.
Was this a collaborative It
was collaborative in the sense, but I think at this time, this was their first time working with a designer, so they really did allow me to just do. Working with them now is a lot different. It is more collaborative. In one, because this is my first time doing a project in Florida, and their lifestyles differently. They're different. They are traveling more. They have homes in international homes. They have homes still in New York and in Florida, so they're busier. So it's a very different situation. But in this case, they kind of leaned on me for a lot, and it was a little bit more turnkey.
And I'm going to ask the same question Alexa asked before we started this. Do you know the color of that blue? I mean, the name of that blue?
No, I don't. Off the top of my head, no. I will get it for you. I use so many. I'm not one of those designers that uses the same color through different projects.
Yeah.
So can't remember right now.
Did you have all of the artwork before you did the palette?
So the artwork, so this client, her background, she's Dominican and her husband's Jamaican American. So this artwork is from Dominican artists. So I wanted it to bring out the very colorful, rhythmic and soulful nature of the art. So
you succeeded in that, and
thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Alexa said earlier, it looks like a Leger, and I see what she's saying now that I'm looking.
And they were okay with the different colors, and so the rug wasn't necessarily my favorite, but they were like, we have to use this rug. We spent a lot of money on it. So I decided to just go, I guess, heavy and colorful with it. So yes, very, but I just said, let me go bold. Let me mix the seat cushions. They didn't quite understand that. I said, but just trust me. We're going to mix patterns here and it will work.
Love it.
It's beautiful.
Right. Moving on, we have a lot of photos, so I think I have to keep it to a certain time, but thank you very much.
Okay.
Alexa.
Yes.
Tell us.
So this is for a young client on Park Avenue, and the husband.
Use my name.
What?
You can use my name. That's a client.
Well, when we were, this is something where we did need to be in person because he didn't understand why we were doing a blue that was not quite the match of the chair blue, which was then the chairs, why they had the two blues, which was slightly different from the carpet blue. So, the furniture was no problem for them, but they needed to be in the room with samples up and to understand how it would interact. Because there was a lot of off-color, purposefully off-color elements. So sometimes when you do something like that, whether it's a moment of asymmetry or a purposefully off-color, you have to really show them how the people who are unfamiliar with it, how it can be a powerful device.
So your original vision for this was to have what you described as off-color, to have.
Yeah, like that there's a tealier blue on the walls and then the more royal blue on the chairs, and then the artwork blissfully came after. And also the glossy walls and the linen print was hard to get them to understand it until they saw it.
Yeah. Because
it's counterintuitive. You think of the glossy walls as being very urban and very crisp, and you think, you'd want like wool or taffeta. In some cases, of course, you would. But we were trying to, because they were young, we wanted to have this classic Park Avenue apartment, but we didn't want it to look like they were squatting at their parents' house. We wanted to lighten it up in moments, like having a linen or having a plaid, so that it wasn't too self-serious.
Yeah, I see that. And also, I think just taking it all in, I think the three anchors of the room that make it all work have nothing to do with those blues. I think, believe it or not, that tree in the corner is magnificent in this room and makes you completely forget about what you just said. And then the sideboard that brown or red, I can't tell. I think it's brown. And
brown.
The chandelier. This kind of looks like unvarnished wood. I can't tell, or maybe it's
it's like Giltwood gesso.
Giltwood gesso. It's just, it makes it a magnificent room. And the first thing you talk about is these colors. And I don't think I would have noticed that immediately because of my eye is drawn to those things, which is, I think, a talent.
Well, good.
Thank you for talking about this.
Yeah, there's a lot of silhouette in the room, but that was easier to express.
Yeah.
That did not require in-person hand-holding. They got it totally.
The hand-holding. All right, we're moving on to Jamie Drake. Sir, tell us about your experience with this room.
So this room, I would say the collaborative nature of it was programmatic. So the client really wanted a multifunctional room, one they could use, the husband could use as a home office, that he could have chats with the kids, that would have bookcases. It's the only room in the house that would have any bookcases. That would be a place to display some contemporary art that they are continually buying. And they wanted to watch TV in the room. And so to accommodate all this, had a full bathroom off of it. And we, to them, a very radical idea. We said, what do you need the full bathroom here? There's a powder room right next door. That's a marketing device for future sales, as being able to sell the apartment as a 5-6 bedroom apartment. I said, let's take Caleb and I, my business partner, Caleb Anderson, said, let's take the bathroom out. We will leave the plumbing all capped there for future sale purposes. But all of a sudden, off to the side here, we ended up with this space where you could actually have a proper place to have, and there's an L-shaped sofa in there and a TV opposite it. Otherwise, it was impossible in the footprint to accommodate their programmatic needs. Now
that is radical. That is radical. I'm impressed.
We're all impressed.
I don't think it's that radical. It looked like a no-brainer to me. The apartment already
had the fact that you were able to sell them on that.
Yes, and that we didn't really need to do in person. We did in person, but we could have done it, I think, virtually as well. I think what really is in person, going back to both Alexa and Keita's comments was really about color and texture and pattern and material. I think those are things that people do want to see in person, but that could also be done by just shipping it to them, having duplicates in our offices and doing that via telecommunication and maybe telekinesis. I will convince you. And here we did have to convince them of this wall covering, which is absolutely gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. That green is gorgeous.
They were a little hesitant about this, but
who does the wall covering?
It's Elitis.
Beautiful.
Is it grass cloth or is that just an illusion?
It is a kind of a grass cloth, but it's a really chunky one with a lot of variation in it because of the reeds take the dye unevenly.
Cool.
Well done, Jamie. I don't think you need me to say that, but well done. Back to Alexa. This is a Kips Bay room that you did. Very famous one. Tell us about this.
So this would be an example of, I did not have to convince a client because there was no client. I was the client. And there were a variety of reasons behind why I chose to do what I did, but I would call this an extremely hard sell unless I was in person with somebody. I mean, I drew this on a pad prior to doing anything. And it looked good. I mean, it looked good to me, certainly, but it's so, when you do radical things, and there are lots of radical moments in this room. There
delicious moments.
I love it, but I would this is so many moments that I would have to be in person with the client. I feel like I'd be hard pressed, even with a sketch, to convey how I felt it would succeed.
Like the valances, for instance. That would be something you'd have to convince in person.
Like the valances, or why the paper lanterns from Canal Street, and the wallpaper. I just got. I worked with an artist to create a module, and then we digitally printed it, and then we would twist it as we printed it, so it would look more like hand done tile. So it would have the wonk to it, so not everything would be the perfect square. But and also the palette. The palette's that's an aggressive palette. So
that's not
yeah.
But going back to Keita's comments about marketing, so this was the Kips Bay room, and of course we do it because we want to support the charity so much and the 10,000 kids in the Bronx with their after-school programs. But designers, we do it for marketing purposes. Would you, in this more tenuous time, be this adventurous with your presentation, do you think?
I think because I have enough photography of more calm work in books or in magazines, I would, because you also, when you're doing a show house, and this is so important, as all designers who are part of this watching us or on the panel, you cannot phone in a show house room, because you've got to put on a show.
Yeah.
and
I'm
amp it up because you now people do see this or did see it and they were like, oh, that's really cool, and they would not have understood it had they not seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kips Bay as an editor for me to go. I'm not the person making one of these rooms, but if I walk into a room after like I'll give you a couple of years ago, Juan Montoya did the basement,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
I could barely breathe. I mean, it was like Stendhal syndrome in the basement of that building, and it was the first series of rooms that I saw. It was this blue and white, beautiful Werner Werkstatte inspired room, and you're looking at a master's work. And then when you ascend the stairs and go to another room, and you're just seeing something that's phoned in, or you're seeing something that's nice, you're never going to remember it. And I think that part of this is about, if you're going to be putting your own money from your own firm into something like this, you should really go for broke and make something that's fantastic, something that's functional too. And you could imagine someone maybe living there, but also it's a fantasy. And,
Well, and maybe it's polarizing. Maybe it's over the top. I feel like Sasha Bikoff did such an amazing job with that staircase in that same townhouse. And maybe it's not the most common treatment for a staircase, but it was so cool. She just like swung for the fences.
I remember years ago, the only show house I ever pulled out of. I'm a man of my word. If I say I'm going to do something and I sign the contract, but in this particular show house, on the first meeting of all the designers getting together to be told, we were told that every room had to use the same color palette of beige, ivory, caramel, and blue. And I said, what do you mean? I said,
that's not a show house.
What will they remember? They'll come away and say, oh, I love that beige, ivory, blue room. and the edict came from the owner of the apartment and the developer of the building, who I would name it. I go be going back into politics. So I'll stop there.
Okay.
oh boy. Okay.
Oh, I totally, yes, of course.
You do another guessing game?
And so I apologize to NL who wrote.
Well, Alexa, great, love this room, and that's a very interesting perspective when you don't actually have the client, but you would need to definitely show the client in person if you wanted to do something this outre. Just want to confirm, is that a sisal rug carpet?
It's apple matting.
Beautiful.
So the Chinese lanterns and the apple matting, just as an aside, not the question you asked, but far be it for me to stop myself and edit my speaking. I was cutting it very close into creating a theme room. So I felt if I used an Oriental rug and it was like Alexa's Alibaba, I had to make it the European version of, like, through the lens of Alexa Hampton, and the paper lanterns also like not part of the
Our way of
big,
canal. Yeah.
So I had to break up something so it didn't look like I was too thematic.
Love that. All right, moving on. Keita Turner, hello, back to you.
Hello, yes.
Talk about this.
So this room was actually also for a show house in the High Point area. And just to give you an example, like because again, I am layering a lot of pattern, and pattern on pattern, the bed is a Tebow stripe of sorts, and then you have the kind of Indonesian styling of the wallpaper. To explain this to a client would be very difficult without possibly seeing them. I mean, you could do it through a 3D rendering, but the first thing people would say is like, well, I don't know, there's too many stripes. And then, I have pattern on the ottomans and pattern on the lounge chair. And then this, bold kind of graphic artwork. And, but I think what makes this work, like, so if I had taken that gilded frame of that headboard away, I don't think it would work. Agreed. But that cuts the eye and cuts the line.
And
it makes work
with the eyes of the two subjects of those portraits on the wall.
Yes, yes. And then I just, I wanted something, kind of young and fresh in terms of artwork, and then the white bedding to me just cuts the palette. It cleans it
It's
up.
a tonic.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful.
Alexia,
I'm going to show one last photograph because we got 5 minutes left. Jesus Christ, we got through this real quick. I'm going to show one last photograph. Don't know whose it is. We'll talk about that, and then we'll go back to normal life for the last question or two. Okay, guys? That work for everyone?
Yes,
Sure.
you're in charge.
We're
Amy,
obedient.
so glad
Come
it's
on, hey!
so glad it's this one. Jamie, tell us about the eye in the sky.
Right, so that enormous, fabulous lamp that's in the corner, which is kind of is it a Hollywood Klieg lamp, or is it something out of a planetarium? This is in a high-rise in New York City, and one of the newer ones, and it's up on a very, very high floor. And I felt that in this corner we needed some major statement, and I was thinking of a piece of sculpture, to be honest. But when I was with the client in London walking through the Masterpiece Fair a few years ago, we came across this fabulous Frederickson Stillard lamp. It is a lamp, it lights up. It's all Swarovski crystals, a sort of a spider's web of them that are over the reflective reflector, and fell in love with it, and the client fell in love with it too. And I think that seeing it in person, the magnificence of it, the magnificence of materiality, the scale of it, and the drama was a priceless moment. Although I do think going forward, there will be clients who are still going to want and desire fabulous things, and they're going to just make a bit more of a leap of faith by looking at things in pictures, and we're going to demand better and better visuals. Now, this is was from Carpenter's Workshop, and as I remember, they had very, very good digitals.
That's how you pronounce it, workshop.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, just as an architecture person. So you don't have to say which building it is, but there are a lot of new buildings in New York City, and a lot of them have these kind of gigantic clunking pillow T in the middle of the room or to the side of the room. Their structural elements are important, but at the same time, as an interior designer working in a new space like this, where, you know, these didn't exist in Candela buildings or Roth buildings, it's kind of just sitting next to it. Like, was there something? Did that play a role in it as well? Like having to figure out.
Absolutely. That's why I felt there needed to be something there, because it's not a space you wanted to walk through. I can't remember. I think you could physically maybe walk through behind it and between it and the wall, but you wanted to direct the traffic flow, and I think you wanted to create a special destination there, which is why I always saw a sculptural element. It is a sculptural element. It also just happens to function as a light. It has this beautiful glow in the corner too. And you're right, we deal with these all over the place, and in 56 Leonard, and 157 at the new Grand Central Park Tower, where we're doing a full floor. And we treat them, we don't try to disguise them. We try to celebrate their structural, massive gold quality. These are dragged in a dry plaster finish. It looks like just white paint. It's not. Down at in another building, we slathered each in a plaster that almost looks metallic, like silver steel. And the next one, I'm not sure what we're doing, but we have them to deal with it at Central Park.
I can see you working well with clients without meeting them. All you have to do is say things like slather, and I feel like you're hired.
But you look at that corner and what you did, Jamie, and it looks like a Brancusi workroom.
Yes.
You know, it's a composition of all of these incredible geometries, and it even that chase looks like, you know, you have two sculptures there the way you've dealt with it.
Yes.
And
you don't even notice the column. You don't even notice
Exactly.
it. You don't. Yeah.
I think if
And
you
I
just
love that wall partition. What is that from?
And I think if you had hung a painting on that wall, it would have just been a flat solution. So the floating partition that is back chiseled and white gold leafed glass actually, again, came from a programmatic request. The client is a foreign client who tends to entertain much more formally than we might here in this country. The dining room is on the other side. it was an open space. She wanted the flow of space and the flow of light and vision, but she wanted some separation from the dining room so that after dinner or before dinner, the staff would be shielded. And there needed to be a TV in this room, and a large TV. So the center panel, the lower center panel there, sort of right behind the flowers, is, and you can see two other ones.
Wow.
That automatically, electronically recedes and then goes up, and then a TV comes up and comes forward.
Wow.
Yeah.
We could talk about that the entire
Yeah.
panel.
Screw the rest of this shit.
I know.
So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and we'll just go back to the sort of the last questions I'm going to ask. This is for people who are watching. How can you put yourself out there when people are social distancing as a designer who isn't necessarily as well known as you guys?
We're doing it now.
You are, yeah. What can other people do? Let's start with Alexa.
Oh, well, I mean, I've always been my father's daughter, so I've always had that.
That was my next question.
Card. But I'm certainly shameless in terms of self-promotion. So whether it's posting an Instagram, or if somebody asks you to be on a panel, you say yes. Somebody needs to speak to you in a magazine, say yes. And if you don't have the answer, refer them to somebody else, become a resource. If you're a good writer, write an article for a magazine or a newspaper. I mean, we've got to diversify. And also when you do things like that, it declares you an authority. You know, if you pen an article and about something, it goes a long way towards saying, I am an authority, I am an expert. So I think we just have to kind of throw a lot of spaghetti at the walls.
I agree. I think, for me, I think a few years ago, I think I spent like 2 years just focusing on my Instagram. I use Instagram more than I use Facebook and others. I mean, I do use Pinterest and LinkedIn. You know, I'm trying to be a little bit more on LinkedIn because that is where some professional clients are. And I think a lot of designers forget about LinkedIn. So if you've pinned an article, or if you've been in an article, post it on LinkedIn.
Really?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, you do.
That's where the professionals are.
Yeah.
I mean, with the designers,
Yeah.
I think Instagram is good for connecting with editors and journalists. And sometimes clients, I mean, I may get clients more from Facebook because that may be word of mouth, but LinkedIn is something that people do not think about. And I think like you said, Alexa, say yes. I mean, it can become a little overwhelming, especially for me since June. You know, the attention on Black designers has, escalated. So that has become, wasn't really expecting all of that. So that became a little overwhelming at times. But I think you have to be mindful and selective, but say yes. So reach out to journalists and editors and say, please think of me, even if it's for a fluff piece. I'm welcome to give a quote.
Yeah.
And then you build your social thumbprint, and that's how, it starts. And I remember years ago, Elaine Griffin told me, like I met her years when I was a little younger, and the Southern lady that Elaine is, she took me out. We went out for drinks, and she was like, Keita, you need to go to these events. Like when we were going to events, she said, you need to be at the D&D building. You need to be at the New York Design Center. The industry needs to get to know you. Because I didn't know. I mean, I came from fashion, so I didn't know anyone in this industry. And if I knew some things now that I know now, I definitely tell everybody I can that this is what you should do.
What about you, Jamie?
I support all of what Keita and Alexa said. And
yeah, me too.
yeah, I mean, I never thought of LinkedIn as a source, but I'm gonna screw my head around how we do that. But I know that Instagram is invaluable, and if you have time on your hands, get your Instagram game up to speed. We have We have done business via Instagram. We've had new project interests come to us. I know a designer or two who've had huge new business success. Tom Samet, you know Tom, Alexa.
Yeah, sure.
He's got such a clear voice on Instagram, and he's had enormous numbers, I think, of clients come to him through that. Hey, Charles, you know what came through? I'm guilty of having my phone propped up here. And what came through is, can Cory Booker cook?
Keita does not know.
And that's an event on 9:30 for the Booker Victory Fund. And since you weren't talking about Cory Booker, though.
No,
you were about Story Cooker.
No,
Yeah, but he was a cooker. It must have been
Story cooker.
She said, yeah, he said story
This is
cooking.
an example of the Chinese listening to us, and these things popped up because of that. Cooking, Booker.
Oh,
Jamie, I'm a little upset you're checking your phone, but it's okay.
Sitting here in anger.
Look, guys, we're running over, so I did have a couple more questions. There were some questions, really interesting ones in the chat. I'm sorry we can't get to them, but I hope this was very helpful and illuminating. So I wanted to thank you three for your time, your personal.
Thank you for having me.
Your wisdom.
thank you.
Yeah.
Lovely to be together.
Sorry, what's that, Jamie?
Lovely for us all to be together.
Yes,
I thought
yes.
you got another.
You did an amazing job, Charles.
And thank you, the audience, for tuning in. And have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you soon.